So when the expression spherical triangle is used, there's a whole bit of Euclidean geometry about the triangle. And you don't know, is that going to also be true on the spheroid? So until you start exploring that, that's all neutral analogy. And some theorems do work and some theorems don't work. And there's a different version or whatever. But the intent, I think, is that looking at the neutral analogy. Okay, I'm going to pause there. So that's some things that have caught my attention in metaphor in relation to class. Does anybody want to say something? No? Right, okay. So another linguistic feature that has caught my attention is hedging. Is this a word that's familiar? Hedging. Yeah, it's basically, in some sense, using words like maybe or possibly or perhaps, should, could, ought, might, modal verbs on the one hand, and then approximately about on the other. And there's a very interesting, sorry, not really pointing, chapter of a book where this taxonomy was created about different types of hedging that were there. And the two types they call approximators and shields, and the two types within approximators are adapters and rounders, and the two types within shield are plausibility and attribution. But the main distinction is there's a proposition that's called P. And if the proposition is not exact, if it has words like 2 and 2 is about 4, 2 and 2 is around 4. There are ways of making a conjecture, but it's fuzzy. It's got this indeterminacy inside the proposition. The shield is to do with how confident I am about the truth of the proposition. So I could say, I think it's true, it might be true, possibly it's true, maybe it's true, and so on. And one of the things that's this gave me when thinking about coming here is there's a fundamental difference between the language of formal written science and formal written mathematics around hedging. Ken Highland is a wonderful discourse analyst who looks at academic writing, all different subject areas. And one of the books he wrote was about professional science articles and the amount and extensive degree of hedging that was in these professional scientists talking about professional scientists. And Tim Rowland is an English mathematics educator, and he wrote one article on looking at hedging with grade 5 and grade 6 students. And there's another article in West and so on, where they had graduate students in mathematics working on a problem and recording what they said about them, talking about it. And everybody hedges when they're talking. It's equal right across the board. But when you look at formal written mathematics, there's no hedging. You don't get, I think this theorem is true, or this theorem is approximately true. It's cleaned out. So again, it's an instance where there's a difference between the professional aspects with regard to hedging, not spoken but in the written that's there. The one example I could frame in mathematics is almost everywhere, and that is a very well-defined thing, or but a set of measures here. But other than that, Okay, so these were the notes that, the sentences Marilyn asked me to write. And so that's what got me going in mathematics and metaphor at the beginning. Just going to a lecture and the philosopher being very, very firm, there is no metaphor in mathematics. And even though I was only 23, I didn't believe him. It took me a while to figure out some things about it, but I just didn't believe that. And yet 20 years later, I found myself saying there's no hedging in formal written mathematics. So maybe somebody will get it. Of course there is. You just need that. But I think the 20 years on, STEM has invited, for me, thinking again about similarities and differences across the various disciplines. And in the context of school mathematics, whether young children or older children, what are they going to come into contact? And if something is STEM, and in America at least, unfortunately, they're trying to create it as a single discipline. There is this thing called STEM. We have STEM schools, and we have STEM mornings, and whatever, as if it's the same all the time. And so I'm interested in ways in which, yes, there's some similarities in ways in which they're not. Okay, so that was Marilyn saying a few days ago, a few years ago. Come do a talk, before the talk. That's my informal talk. And happy to carry on talking. But I'm interested in the center here and the ways in which you're exploring aspects of this metaphor and science. And the other thing is, if you want to speak in Italian, feel free.
I think in teaching mathematics, you use metaphor all the time. And then, I am a primary school teacher.
Yeah.
So there is no way I can get any mathematical concept across if I don't use metaphors. And they have to be visual, they have to be everything. I mean, I have to pull out every single thing that I have in my head. But then, it was very interesting what you said about the hedging, because when they answer me, then I don't accept any metaphor in a sense. And as freshman, I don't accept hedging. It might be, and then I said, well, it is or it isn't. So it's really interesting how, and I do think though that hedging and metaphor are very different concepts. In a way, you can use metaphor and still not use hedging, in a sense, because, well, maybe not. Because if you use a metaphor, you're always going to say, no, it's true up until here, and then not anymore. I mean, of course, the violence player is not killing himself. Yeah. So the metaphor is always true up to an extent, and it's trying to shed light on one aspect, and of course, at the same time, it's not putting the same light on everything else. So.
Yes, I realized that there's another type of metaphor which I didn't mention, which is when you're making a connection between something in mathematics and something in the real world, the outside world. So, for example, with an asymptote to an axis, some people talk about magnets. Like, as it gets closer and closer, it's like it's being drawn by a magnet to go from there. That's a different sort of metaphor, because it's saying this thing in mathematics is like this thing, this feature in the real world. Whereas the adjective noun is changing a mathematical noun that's already got some meaning, whole number, integer, fraction, decimal, irrational, all these different types of numbers that they encounter as they get to school. Could you give an example or two? You said metaphors of...
Well, look, and I don't know if even, as I'm talking, I don't know if it applies, because I know why you're talking about this difference, but the other day I gave a problem, and the problem was making a dress. Two people were making a dress, and they had to pay the seamstress, and the seamstress pay was the same, and they had to buy the material to do it, and that had different costs. And the problem was asking the difference between how much the two dresses would cost at the end. And my student came up with 3 different solutions, and I asked them to show me with a diagram why all 3 of them worked, because they all came up with the same results. And 2 of them made sense, and the third one did not make sense, but still came up with the same results for mathematical reasons. So I asked them to show me with a diagram, and then we went on and someone said, well, it's like if I go to school and someone else goes to school and we have to pass through the square to get to the school, from the square to the school the distance is the same, but from my house to the square there's a different distance. So to me that's, the diagram, the roof, that's all a metaphor.
Right.
But not necessarily, it's more down to, so I guess it doesn't go into the core of mathematical concepts, it goes more into the trying to apply logic to mathematics. So I'm not sure it does apply to what you said. It may be more in the direction of STEAM, of the idea of project-based, because to me STEAM is project-based learning that puts together arts and science, which I'm not sure it's oversimplifying it.
No.
Maybe I am.
Yeah.
But, so in a sense, the idea that you can see things from different direction, it's the power of metaphor to me, and that's what I think we can use. And it's not always an analogy, it can be also a completely change of paradigm, a completely change of
the context.
Yes. To see how there is a general idea that I might not grasp, like a big elephant that I don't see as the elephant, but I can look at different point and catch different aspects of it. But I'm not sure I'm making sense. Another way we have to use a lot of metaphors when we're trying to make them not see but grasp the concept of infinity in the wide and in the small, in a sense.
Yeah.
So to them, the idea that you can infinitely break something, it's so hard. And to this day, I have a student that says, well, if 1 is 1, how can you break 1?
and Plato agreed. Yes, he did not want the fractions to break 1.
But and again, I think metaphor can help us, because for her, she thinks she understands the concept of infinity as big. But that means she doesn't have really the concept of infinity. She just thinks about something that's big.
Yes.
And that's not.
Yes.
So,
rather than a verb of being able to do something and do it again and do it again,
yeah.
whether it's adding or dividing.
Yeah. So I do think that language and the way we structure things does change, but it's very hard for us to have control on what we say, especially because we don't write. We never could. So.
I was thinking about an example from the history of mathematics and that is connected to the history also of art. Every year I give some, maybe 1 or 2 lectures in Anna Maria classroom, and she's teaching theory and didactics of image. I already told you that she's using, I do not know whether she's using it anymore, Panofsky book on perspective as symbolic form. Usi ancora Panofsky? Lei ancora?
Quella il significato nelle arti visive.
No, però. And the problem is that, as you I guess you know that one of the authors in the history of mathematics that is defined to have used metaphorical thinking is design. Design.
Yeah.
And it is usually contrasted with Descartes, that is thought to have used something that more related to metonymy. So, and the problem is that in the case of design, this is the topic of usually of the lecture I gave in the past years, was that design created new objects, new mathematical objects by metaphors. And the idea is that he wrote in his book on the early book on conics, where he studied how to cut a cone in different ways in order to obtain conics. He says something. I think that I have also some slides about the lecture I gave. And he's convinced that he's starting a new, completely new adventure in mathematics. And he said, the reader will judge what I am doing. And the problem is that he tried to define the point of infinity. And I was thinking of it because Laura spoke about the problem of infinity also with a young student. Surely, the fact is that if you think of infinity as a potential infinity, we can say, okay, I have a segment and we can divide by half, and then we can divide again, and then we can divide again. And I can go on several times. But the problem is how to conceptualize actual infinity. It's something that is related not to a process, a never-ending process, but something that I can see as an object. And surely the idea that the Zager, what does it do? He says, okay, I can take the general language of Euclid, where Euclid says, for instance, you have two lines and the lines are intersecting in point. I can say the same thing also when the lines are not intersecting, and so they are parallel. And so I can define the point as the things that these two lines have in common, but they have nothing in common because only the intersecting lines have a point in common. But you say, no, they have in common something that we could say in other direction. And he created new objects by using metaphor. And this was the reason why it was not understood in the 17th century, because he used a very difficult language. He took the language from biology, from the study of vegetables and so on. And it was something that was related also to some general ideas of the philosophy of the 17th century that you could use, something that was coming from another field. And it was not understood. And actually there is a very interesting exchange of letters between Descartes and Zager. And Descartes writes, you are writing in a too difficult way. It would be better if you use my language, that is something that can be understood by everybody, and not to introduce these very strange things. But Descartes was in the trend. He was already Euclidean, but Descartes was creating the new ideas. And so in this way, metaphors can be used to create new ideas. And sure, it is not very easy to understand. But these are mathematical metaphors. Surely they are inside mathematics. And I think that the analysis of both authors has been done. It is a classical of the history of science, of the history of mathematics. It was done by Michalotte in Germany or other in France too, because there are two French authors. It is much better to read in French than to read in English or the Italian translation.
Yes.
French conveys better what is happening. And so it is not true that there is no metaphor in mathematics. There are metaphors, maybe they are hidden.
And, well, they disappear. And I think that's the other thing, that once you have changed your notion of triangle, spherical triangle just becomes a type of triangle. And so it loses the metaphoric quality once you've understood it. And too often, I think, teachers, at whatever level, don't realize that for the students this is metaphor. And that they think, well, it's just a type of triangle. But the noun changes.
But the problem is that in metaphor, at least in the Zag, he writes that it is the very power of the language that allows me to tell this, because I have a language that is clear on the one hand side, that is Euclid language, and I am creating a new word, and I use the same structure, and at the beginning there is no meaning, but the meaning is inside the language structure, and so I can develop something drawing on the language, and this is the new that has been created.
Yeah. And it's created linguistically.
Yes, it is created linguistically. Not there is not a concrete reference. Then we can try to understand it, for instance, because the Zag surely was an architect, and the Zag had some ideas about the problem of perspective and so on. But for instance, I discussed at this point with Raphael Núñez, who visited us. And in their book, where mathematics comes from, together with Lekov, they are using just potential infinity. And they try to relate everything to the body. And they say, in that case of the actual infinity, it is not related to the body, it is related to language. And so if you have analyzed just one way to create one kind of infinity, that is not the more general kind of infinity. Because you can create something also by language. And in this case, you are creating by metaphor. In this particular case, you are creating this metaphor.
And I think, again, infinity is a noun, but potential infinity should be a verb. Infinitizing.
Yes, it is.
Right. Repeating. Caleb Vittenio, mathematics educator, said, what I've done once, I can do again as many times as needed.
Yes, I never thought of